What's happening to our gaming choices? Gaming has never been bigger. The industry keeps expanding every year, and the sheer number of choices can feel overwhelming. In 2023 alone, more than 12,000 games were released on Steam, a record-breaking number for a single year. Subscription services like Xbox Game Pass or Ubisoft Connect offer access to hundreds of titles in one place, adding even more options to the mix. And let's not forget the countless DLCs, expansions and add-ons that extend the content of existing games. The result? A mountain of possibilities so vast it's almost paralyzing. Choosing what to play has become harder than ever in a world overflowing with options. At first glance, having more games available might seem like a fantastic thing. More games should mean more fun, right? But in reality, it often feels like the opposite. I know I've talked about this, but let's give a little recap. This is called the paradox of choice, a term from psychology that describes how having too many options can leave us feeling overwhelmed and unable to decide. So with the sheer volume of games being released every year, it's easy to get stuck in the loop. I've experienced this countless times myself. You browse through hundreds of games, adding dozens to your wishlist, yet you can't figure out which one to start. It's a strange and frustrating feeling, almost like you're being frozen in indecision. There have even been times when I've opened my Steam library without a clear idea of what to play, only to spend far too long scrolling through my options or checking the Steam sales. And eventually, I'd close everything, feeling so stuck that I'd just switch over to YouTube or Netflix instead of playing games at all. Nowadays, many people turn to services like Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, which offer a staggering number of free games to explore. But with this many choices, the fear of picking the wrong game becomes overwhelming. And ironically, it often leads to not choosing anything at all. It's a strange dilemma. Having too much of a good thing can end up being a problem. I can't help to think back when gaming felt simpler. I know I sound like an old-timer, even though I'm only 20. But when I was younger, things were different. I usually had just 2 or 3 games, mostly Lego Star Wars or Mario Bros. Titles that I looked forward to all year. I'd play them for hours, watching videos about them and waiting the whole day for that moment I could play again. Back then, there were no endless libraries or overwhelming options. When the time finally came, I'd head to a shop like Dreamland or another store and pick up my coveted game. I'd play it for months, sometimes even years, before moving on to something else. Gaming felt focused, immersive and rewarding in a way that's hard to replicate now. As I started getting older and got my first gaming PC, I noticed something curious about my friends' gaming libraries. Some of them had a lot of games, and sometimes even hundreds. Yet, the vast majority was never played. Most of those titles hadn't even been opened. At the time, it seemed baffling to me. But what I didn't notice at the time was that I was slipping into the same patterns. Steam sales would pop up, and I couldn't resist grabbing discounted games, even if I wasn't sure I'd ever play them. I'd tell myself things like it was a great deal, only to realize months later that I hadn't touched half the games I'd bought. It hit me. This wasn't about wanting to play. Many of these purchases were driven by hype, and by the sense that I should have these games because everyone else was talking about them. It wasn't excitement fueling my decisions, it was a fear of missing out. Take God of War for example. When it launched, it was everywhere, praised as the game of a generation. Social media was buzzing with excitement, and even my friends wouldn't stop raving about how incredible it was. The hype was intense, and I felt this internal pressure to join in. But I made a conscious decision to hold off. I told myself I'd only buy the game if and when I truly felt interested in playing it, not because everyone else was hyping it up. Now, over the past few months, some of my viewers might have noticed a trend. I've skipped over a lot of massive titles. I talk about games that I genuinely love and genuinely love talking about. If you don't do what you enjoy, gaming can feel less like a joy and more like a chore. I think a lot of people had this with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I've played Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 2022. This was my first introduction to the franchise, and I genuinely had a blast. That led me to dive into the rest of the series, starting from the original and work my way through Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and even the Assassin's Creed mobile game. I loved most of them. From what I've heard, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, this massive 200-hour plus game, can feel boring after only 10 hours. So what I mean is, don't fall into the trap of buying games because they're popular. And this leads us to the solution. Making the right gaming choices begins with taking a step back and reflecting on what truly excites you about gaming. It's very easy to get swept up in the hype around a popular title, but instead of following trends, focus on what you enjoy. Whether it's a specific genre, gameplay style, or narrative, start by considering the types of games that have kept you engaged in the past. Are you into open world adventures, intense strategy, deep storytelling, or casual games? Identifying your preferences can help narrow down your options. Before purchasing, take some time to do your research. Watch gameplay videos or trailers, watch reviews, and check out gameplay streams to get a sense of what the game offers. This allows you to make a more informed decision and prevents you from buying a game based solely on marketing or external pressure. Many platforms offer demos or free weekends, so you can test the game before fully committing to it. Additionally, avoid buying games just because they're on sale or because everyone else seems to be playing them. It's tempting to grab them, but if you're not genuinely interested in a game, you'll likely just add it to an ever-growing backlog that you never get around to playing. Instead, try to limit your purchases to games that you're actively excited about and want to experience, rather than those that are merely trending at the moment. It's also helpful to set some boundaries for yourself. If you have a large library of games, resist the urge to buy new titles until you finished or at least made significant progress on the ones you've already started. This prevents the feeling of being overwhelmed by choice and encourages you to focus on enjoying the games you already own. And lastly, gaming should be a fun and relaxing experience. If you find yourself forcing your way through a game just because it's popular or you've already invested time into it, it might be time to step back. Don't be afraid to put a game down if it's no longer fun, and don't feel pressure to play something you're not enjoying. By being more mindful about your gaming choices and focusing on quality experiences, you can ensure that gaming remains a rewarding and enjoyable part of your life. Thank you so much for watching this video. Maybe you like my next one. And as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, donate, masturbate.